Well, welcome everyone to this week's Sunday service here for Sunday, February 7th, 2021. As you can see, I'm outside right now and just doing something different, trying to break out of that never-ending cycle that we're going to be talking about today. So for those of you who don't know, this is Glad Tidings Church of God here, Fawn Hill, Ontario. I'm Pastor Daniel. Glad you could join us this morning, watching on Facebook and on YouTube. And those of you who are in our Zoom meeting are watching as well. And I figured I'd just come outside. It's not too cold out today, and hopefully this works out. Hopefully there's not too much background noise and you can hear me okay. Hopefully it doesn't give you motion sickness by doing this. But this past week on Tuesday, I believe it was, February 2nd, was Groundhog Day, a sort of odd tradition that is celebrated and observed throughout parts of North America, most famously in a town called Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. Ceremonies are held in not only that town, but in towns all throughout North America. And the idea is, during the ceremony, a groundhog emerges from its burrow, and apparently, depending on whether or not the groundhog sees its shadow, there will be 6 more weeks of winter. If the groundhog sees its shadow due to clear weather and retreats to its den, then winter will persist for 6 more weeks. But if it does not see its shadow because of cloudiness, then spring will arrive early. This tradition goes back to the 1800s and apparently comes from an old Pennsylvania Dutch tradition, which itself has roots in earlier German-based traditions, and even in a particular Catholic holiday called Candlemas. You can learn more about it on that great resource of information called Wikipedia. But there's actually no scientific basis for looking at a groundhog's activity to predict the weather. I guess when it's cold, when it's the 1800s and it's a cold, long winter, you can come up with some interesting notions.
No height or depth can separate steadfast love who can escape faithfulness, an endless sea, full of grace and mercy. We sing God is so good. God is so good. God is so good. He's so good to me. Haunted by the past no more. Innocence has been restored. Forgiveness flows from your veins. Kindness shown in all your ways. We sing God is so good. God is so good. God is so good. He's so good to me. Oh, there's never been anyone like you. Never been anyone like you. You are worthy. You are worthy. Oh, there's never been anyone like you. Never been anyone like you. You are worthy. You are worthy. Hope is rising like the sun. The old is gone, the new has come. I fix my eyes on Christ alone. I rock my washing my corner store. We sing, God is so good. God is so good. God is so good. He's so good to me. God is so good. He's so good to me.
But the observance of Groundhog Day reminds me of a favorite movie of mine, a 1993 movie starring Bill Murray called Groundhog Day. Bill Murray plays a cynical and cranky Pittsburgh-based weatherman who is forced to go to Punxsutawney to cover that year's groundhog ceremony. So we see Phil's experiences throughout that day, but then, without explanation, he wakes up the next morning and he finds that it's once again February 2nd, Groundhog Day, and he is again in the town of Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania. In fact, throughout the course of the movie, Phil relives that day over and over again. And there is seemingly nothing to break him out of this loop. So without spoiling the movie, one of the purposes of the movie is to show Phil's progression, his growth as a person. He gets to experience the same day over and over with similar circumstances, and he gets to make different choices as time, so to speak, goes on. Even though he's experiencing the same exact day, for him, time is continuing on normally, so to speak. So I think this is why this movie captures my imagination so much, because it gets me thinking, what would I do if I was stuck reliving the same day over and over again? How would I learn over time? What would I do differently? What would I change? How would I grow?
sing of your love forever. I could sing of your love forever.
You belong here. It's the message we want to send to all of you who could potentially be a part of our church. You belong here, and though with the current lockdown you can't literally be here in the building at least, you can still be a part of what we're doing. So I do encourage you to visit our website, gladtidingschurchofgod.com, to engage with us on social media. So many different ways, on Facebook, on Twitter, on YouTube, on Instagram. And of course, you can support what we're doing by going to gladtidingschurchofgod.com/support to learn about the different ways of supporting what we're doing as a church. We want you to be engaged and to get connected with us, and more importantly, to get connected with Jesus. So thank you for watching today's service, and we're going to continue on with today's message. You know, it can often feel like we are stuck in a time loop, that we're reliving the same day over and over again, just like the main character in the movie Groundhog Day. And so I wanted to give you a little taste of what my life is like, sort of vlog style. Find out what my day is sort of like and follow me throughout the day. I want you to know that I believe that I am extremely blessed with a beautiful, loving, intelligent wife, with 2 wonderful little boys, wonderful job and wonderful responsibility being pastor and living here at the parsonage. We really have the privilege of living this life and serving all of you. But in this pandemic, life can seem like we are in a sort of an unending cycle. Even though I'm recording this in order to feel like I'm not in my routine, here's a little glimpse into what my day-to-day routine is like. I want to show you my home office, so to speak, here in one of the rooms up here in the parsonage. It's basically the least finished room. We call it the unroom because it's basically where we put everything that doesn't fit anywhere else. But it is where I have put a green screen. So this is where I sit to do my sermons and do the videos for each week, and so that I can have a nice background. I used to have my studio lights in here, but I figured I'd just leave those at the church and just put these lamps. They do the job. And as you can see, I have my guitar and bass over there. So this is where I record all of the music for our worship songs each week, and I just program the drums on the computer here. Here's my nice iMac computer. And then I get Paul or Sarah, or in this case, this week Hannah, my niece, to record vocals at their home, and that way I can just add it in afterwards and mix it all together. And yeah, so this is where I do all my work. So let me cut to me sitting down, and I'll explain a little bit more what I do. A lot of my day is spent on a computer, either my iMac here, or I also have a laptop, which I used to use anywhere I went, but now it's for anywhere else in the house, I guess. But a lot of my work is done on the computer. I write my sermon for the coming Sunday. I'm picking songs for Sunday. I am preparing that and recording, which I'll show you in just a second. I go on Zoom calls often, so I'll put on my headphones I got my microphone here, and I'll log into Zoom and join the meeting, and that way I can interact with the webcam here and everything, and that's how we stay in touch. And again, there's lots of things that we're doing that I have to do throughout the week, and I take care of it here. This is my home office, so to speak. Again, this is where I get my work done, and so I'll just give you a little preview of how I record. I just grab my guitar, and I have my bass guitar over there as well, and I just program all the drums on the computer. But I record, I put on my headphones so I can listen to the metronome or the other tracks that I've recorded, and then I just plug in and I start. All right, well, I'm taking a rare excursion outside for purposes of getting Tim Hortons. I know, what is the point of getting Tim Hortons when you can make your own coffee? And we do make our own coffee in the morning. What is the point? Well, there are probably several reasons why it makes sense in my brain to go get Tim Hortons in the middle of the day. Not the least of which is that it breaks up the day a little bit and allows my brain to relax a little bit and feel like I'm not under any sort of pressure. And there's something about that dopamine hit of going out and getting something special. And quite frankly, I just really like Tim Hortons coffee.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Rocky Lake for you today.
Yeah. What does that spell? R E G. Okay, we have to turn off the light now. Just about to put Timothy to bed, but we need to turn off the light. All right, turn it off. Off. Thank you, Timothy. Good night. I've decided not to use the green screen this week and just to show you how things look normally without that effect. I figured with trying to break out of the never-ending cycle, that would be a good thing to do. And so I'm just going to go ahead and jump into my message this morning, and it's not going to be very long. In fact, it's going to be fairly concise. It's funny because in my notes here, it says that this is the never-ending sermon, which it's not lost on me that is a pun. Sometimes pastors, maybe even me, can go on and it can feel like the sermon is never ending. But lest I be accused of that, here's the main point of today's message. I'll even put it on the screen. And this is the point, and we're just going to focus on this. Life can feel like a never-ending cycle, the same thing day after day. But we have a choice to recognize the never-ending love of God in our lives and make choices to grow even during the monotony of our lives. You know, there is nothing new under the sun. Maybe you've heard that phrase before. It comes from the book of Ecclesiastes. We're not the first people to live during a pandemic. Just over 100 years ago, there was a pandemic as well. And we're certainly not the first people to experience challenging times or to experience repetitive nature of life and to feel like we're in a never-ending cycle. So even that alone gives me some kind of hope to say, you know, we're not alone. People have gone through this before, and they they got out of it and they got past it. In fact, the book of Ecclesiastes, which I mentioned, is a book in which the writer is talking about how meaningless everything feels. He says in the first chapter, according to the NLT, history merely repeats itself. It has all been done before. Nothing under the sun is truly new. So there is a challenge to the repetitive nature of life. That is, when we go through life and when we recognize that it can feel like a never-ending cycle, it can feel like things are the same every single day, and nothing, there doesn't seem to be anything new or exciting or any sort of rest or whatever it is you're looking for or hoping for. That's a challenge to experience that and to have to face that. We're facing it right now, right? My life, as you saw earlier, is the same every day almost. And as much as I appreciate and love my family and love my life, I'm somebody who needs something new and something interesting to capture my attention and imagination. And without that, it can get discouraging. So what do we do? What are we supposed to do as we face the challenging nature of life, the repetitive nature of life? Well, we first of all hope for something more, for something better. We make sure and we reiterate in our hearts and in our minds that we are people of hope, that this is not going to be the way it is forever. And we are going to get through this, and we're going to have more interesting times and more times in which there's more fulfillment or more happiness or whatever it is that you're looking for. But while we're in these challenging times, what can we do? Well, we can focus in on who we are and our habits and how we treat one another and how we treat ourselves. And we can attempt and we can ask God to help us to grow in wisdom, to see how we can actually grow personally, grow in character and grow as a person in these times. So how do we do that? Well, to me, it's a matter of trying to break through the monotony and trying to break through the repetitive nature and try to focus in on what it is that I'm doing each day and how I'm living and how I can possibly give myself over to God and see progress in my own life and see positive change. And make goals, strive towards some goal, whatever it might be in your life, whatever area of your life in which you want to grow. Set a goal, and that way you have at least something to strive towards, and if you meet that goal or at least make progress on that goal, that itself will be something that will give you relief from the repetitive nature of life. But through it all, we recognize that there is something that is never ending, that is a very, very good thing, and that is God's love for us, right? Psalm 136 verse 1 says, "Give thanks to the Lord, for he is good. His faithful love endures forever." His devotion to us, his faithfulness to us endures forever. God's love is never ending. His hope is never ending. And the life that he gives us, in fact, is never ending. That's what we have in Jesus and which God gives us. And that is eternal life, everlasting life, never ending life. And it's not just referring to time, though that's part of it, but it's referring to the quality of life that we have. And so if we are feeling like we are not experiencing all that life can be, and life is repetitive and challenging in that way, then we need to tap into what God has for us, because that eternal life that he has for us, we tend to think that we're going to be up on a cloud, strumming on a harp or something like that. No, heaven will be on earth. The kingdom of God will have come fully, and eventually we will see the new heavens and new earth, and we will have continual new experiences. We can't even begin to imagine what life will be like as time goes on and on and on, right? Because God's love is never ending, and therefore our relationship with him will never run out of things to do. We'll never run out of new experiences and new ways to to be fulfilled in that way. And so we look forward to that, and we hold on to that as our hope. And we say we want to experience that now in our lives now. And so there's something that Paul said in his letter to the Galatians that I think is very important, that we should remember and we should try to live out. He said, those who live to please the Spirit, God, those who live to please God, will harvest everlasting life. So, he says, let's not get tired of doing what is good. At just the right time, we will reap a harvest of blessing if we don't give up. So it's conditional, right? It's based upon whether or not we give up. So he says, do not give up, right? Because we will reap a harvest of blessing if we don't give up, and if we continue to do what is good and make choices that are positive, are healthy and righteous, then we will be blessed with everlasting life based upon the grace and love of God manifested through his Son, Jesus. So let's not give up. Yes, life can feel like it's the same day after day, on and on, like it's never ending. But God has something new for us just around the corner, really, if you think about it that way. There is hope. There is something more. And so let's not give up. Let's hold on to God's love and recognize God's love and strive to do good as we rely on him.
Where can I run from your presence? Where can I flee from you? Even if I hide on the highest mountain, you are there. Where can I run from your
Well, thank you so much for joining us for our weekly service here at Glad Tidings Church of God. It's been interesting recording this outside. I hope you'll join us again next week. God bless you. Have a great week.